It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Birmingham's bin strikes set to go on as unions rubbish the City Council's offer as totally inadequate. Keeping the home fires burning, coal to keep Scunthorpe steel plant open is secured, but the government hasn't said when it will arrive. Donald Trump suggests homegrown criminals could be deported as he welcomes El Salvador's president to the White House.
They say that we imprisoned thousands. I like to say that we actually liberated millions. So,
it's very good. Who gave him that line? Do you think I can use that?
He's finally done it. Masters champion.
As Rory McIlroy claims a career Grand Slam, we visit the golf club in Northern Ireland where it all began.
Liftoff. New Shepard has cleared the tower.
An all-female crew successfully launches into space on a Blue Origin rocket for an 11-minute trip.
1, 2, 3, take us space! Woo!
And singer Katy Perry is among the star-studded lineup to reach the boundary of space.
You never know how much love is inside of you, like how much love you have to give, and how loved you are until the day you launch.
And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Good evening. Any hopes of an end to the long-running strike by bin workers in Birmingham have been dashed tonight after union members overwhelmingly rejected the City Council's offer in a fresh ballot. The union, Unite, says the Council's latest proposal is totally inadequate and doesn't address potential pay cuts for 200 drivers. The strike has now entered its 6th week, and with thousands of tons of rubbish yet to be collected and fears of a public health emergency, the government has called in the army to help. Our People and Politics correspondent Nick Martin reports now from Birmingham.
For 6 weeks, the council and the union have been locked in dispute. And all the while, rubbish swirls on the city's streets.
They've cleaned it. When was it? A couple of days ago,
A couple of days ago.
And it's already starting back.
The community litter pickers have had enough, desperate for a deal that could end this. But a deal is far from done.
You are presumably well used to sites like this now.
You know what? It was bad before, but now it's just colossal. Now we can't deal with it.
And what's your message to the council, to the elected leaders who run this city?
They need to sort this out. They need to sort the bin strike out ASAP. We've also got a massive increase in rats and mice, I was telling you. Even in the houses, residential houses, we've got people in our groups telling us that the rats are coming into the house and stuff. I've got a mice infestation where I live as well now. I didn't have one before. I understand where the bin men's frustration is, but this isn't fair on the rest of us. It needs to be fixed. We need to come to something and they need to fix it straight away.
Birmingham has had a tough time recently. This is the 3rd bin strike in under 10 years. And in 2023, the council declared itself effectively bankrupt. This dispute threatens to cost the city millions of pounds.
Even when piles of rubbish like these are collected, they still need to be processed. Neighbouring councils have been coming in to try and help, as have private companies. And it's the cost of clearing that backlog which is mind-boggling. Waste removal experts have told us that the cost of the clean-up could be in excess of £200 million.
Clearly, we have to pick up the bill. So what has this council learned over the years? They've learned nothing. Yeah, every time that you're getting into a strike, it's we as the general public have to pick up the bill. Our bills are going up and our services are going down. So we're frustrated.
The MP here is frustrated too.
Do you think that Unite Union has been willing to put the public's health at risk to get the deal that it wants, knowing what will happen if the bins aren't collected?
I can't speak for Unite. What I can say is I wrote to the City Council raising my concerns very early on about the public health issue because, you know, we cannot see vermin on the streets in the way that we've seen people writing to me, sending me pictures of cockroaches, of rats.
Any hopes that a deal could be reached fell away when union members voted overwhelmingly to reject the latest offer. The council said it was incredibly disappointing. The government urged the union to call off the strikes.
There is a huge amount of anxiety in this city among people whose homes have got rats in them and mice in them. You are putting the public's health at risk, aren't you, and using that as leverage to get your deal over the line. Do you accept that?
No, absolutely not. We're not leveraging the public in any way whatsoever. What's happening here is that our members are facing a pay cut. It's not our deal. This is of the council's making. The council have put forward a proposal that would lead to a sharp drop in pay for our members. There's massive anxiety. But how about the anxiety of thinking, am I going to be able to pay my rent and my mortgage?
The clear-up has begun here, but without a deal, the rubbish will return. Birmingham's problems could begin to pile up all over again. Nick Martin, Sky News, Birmingham.
Well, let's go live to Westminster and our political correspondent, Serena Barker-Singh. Serena, how much of a problem could the strike become for the government if it's not resolved soon?
Well, this is undoubtedly a local issue, but the government have been dragged in, and that is because of the scale of the problem. It's been declared a major incident in Birmingham because of the chaos and the rising concerns of the risk to public health, but also damage to the environment. And the council and the unions are still at loggerheads. This is why the dispute is happening. The government did say today that there was an offer on the table which was rejected, and that was a deeply disappointing outcome. So they are asked to comment, but they've rejected calls to step in and mediate, or another request from the union was to consider a debt restructure for the council. Now, today, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, said a good offer was on the table. She said nobody had to lose pay, but of course Unite have rejected that offer. So in the interim, the government have had some financial support to the council. They've also called in military planners to help clear the backlog. Some of the bins have been cleared, but those bins will return until a solution is found. And in the meantime, the opposition are really making hay of this. They're pointing out that this is a Labour-run council. They're trying to say that this shows that national governments are now ailing residents. While this is clear political opportunism, there will be more problems for the government down the line if this is not resolved soon.
Serena Barker-Singh in Westminster. Serena, thank you. Downing Street says there are no plans for a review of China's involvement in the UK's critical national infrastructure after the government had to step in to save British steel. Ministers intervened at the weekend amid concerns that the firm's Chinese owners would allow the blast furnaces in Scunthorpe to go out, effectively ending steel production in the UK. Well, today the government said it's confident in securing the supply materials to keep the furnaces running, but it didn't specify when they would be on site. Our business and economics correspondent Paul Kelso has more.
Waiting to be shipped to Scunthorpe, some of the raw materials the government has spent the weekend scrambling to secure to protect the short-term future of British Steel's blast furnace plant. Literally keeping the home fires burning matters, because if these furnaces go out, the plant is dead. With fresh supplies of iron ore en route from Australia and coking coal from the United States, the Deputy Prime Minister is confident it has a future.
We've got the raw materials, they've been paid for, and we're confident that the furnaces will continue to fire. We've taken the action we've taken over the weekend. It was important that we did that. We secured the site.
Having seized control of the company from its Chinese owners at the weekend, the Prime Minister met new Chief Executive Alan Bell, on the right here. He will work alongside a team from consultants EY on short-term survival and a long-term plan, likely to start with nationalisation.
There's still a lot of discussion that needs to take place about what comes next. You know, what are the plans under this new rule of the Labour Party, the Labour government. So we're still waiting to get that detail as to what's going to follow after the weekend. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that we feel a lot more secure now than we did before.
Locally, there's relief that the plant and its 2,700 jobs have a reprieve.
It's having a real big impact. Our business has gone down by about 60% for the guys not coming out.
So my partner's worked there for, I think, about 2 years now. So we still don't know what the outcome is. We're still in that random space of do they have jobs, do they not have jobs?
Ministers and management say their intervention is justified because only coal-fired Scunthorpe can produce the virgin steel used from railways to defence. But government support for Tata Steel's Port Talbot works will support a transition to electric arc furnaces fed with recycled steel, a potentially more sustainable alternative.
We've got the feedstock here. We don't have supplies of coke and iron ore, but we do have our own scrap. So we could be operating in a closed loop, powering it with renewables or nuclear, and then we would have a green, clean steel industry, which is categorically the way of the future.
With Scunthorpe losing £700,000 every day and Donald Trump's trade war deflating steel prices, forging a long-term future for the British steel industry remains an enormous challenge. Paul Kelso, Sky News.
Donald Trump has suggested that homegrown criminals in the United States could be deported to jails in El Salvador. He made the comment while speaking alongside the country's president, Nayib Bukele, in the Oval Office. In recent weeks, the Trump administration has sent hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members to a maximum security prison in El Salvador. Here's our U.S. correspondent, Mark Stone.
At an airport in El Salvador, the latest group to be deported from America. 11 men, gang members, says the White House, but detained and removed to this mega prison with no evidence of their crimes, no judicial process and no access to lawyers. They join hundreds already lifted from America and sent to El Salvador's notorious terrorism confinement center, one of the largest jails in the world. At a White House in step with this policy, a guard of honor for the president of El Salvador, the first Latin American leader to visit President Trump. Nayib Bukele styles himself as the coolest dictator in the world. Donald Trump likes him because there is a symbiosis to this relationship.
I want to thank you for the great job you're doing. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Bukele has an 80% approval rating in El Salvador. He's turned a soaring crime rate on its head, the world's most dangerous country to the Western Hemisphere's safest.
Sometimes they say that we imprisoned thousands. I like to say that we actually liberated millions. So, you know, like...
It's very good. Who gave him that line? Do you think I can use that?
The images, the rhetoric has pitted Donald Trump against his own courts. But he is doubling down and has ambitions to go further, to outsource American prisoners, American citizens, to El Salvador too.
I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country.
Among those already deported is Kilmar Albrego Garcia, removed to the El Salvador jail because of an administrative error. But the Trump administration says they don't have the legal obligation to bring him back.
Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country?
On immigration, President Trump can point to material successes since he took office. His hard line and his partnership with El Salvador has pushed crossings on the southern border for the year so far to their lowest level in decades. A meeting of minds then, two men who admire each other's methods, who share controversial tactics, who relish in causing a stir. There is advantage for both leaders in this relationship. El Salvador is getting paid for this outsourcing. President Trump gets results on immigration. But at what cost for the principles of due process in America?
And we can speak to Mark in Washington right now. Mark, you mentioned that the two men have a lot in common, and the principles are at stake here as well, because the president of El Salvador says he will not return a man mistakenly deported from the U.S.
Yeah, Albrego Garcia is his name. You saw images of him in my report there. And he is really a test case for all of this, because He is a man who came here, yes, illegally from El Salvador, but followed the process of claiming asylum once he had got here. He was in the legal process here for quite some time. He has a wife, he has children here, he lived in Maryland, and then was swept up in Donald Trump's exporting of people out of the United States. His wife says he is not a member of a gang. Whether he is or he is not, he has not faced any judicial process. Now, he is in this El Salvador jail, and the Americans, despite the Supreme Court saying they need to facilitate his return here to be put in front of a court, Donald Trump saying, not my problem, I'm not doing it, and the El Salvador president is saying the same thing. So an extraordinary legal case, and I think a test case for where things go from here.
Absolutely. And the president also spoke about Ukraine. He once again suggested that Ukraine shares the blame for allowing the war to start.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. Over the course of the weekend, Friday, we had Trump's point man on, it seems, pretty much everything. Steve Witkoff, the deal maker in chief in St. Petersburg, meeting President Putin, shaking hands with him, a man he says he has built up a friendship with. And then over the course of the weekend, an extraordinary number of attacks across Ukraine, Russian attacks, more than 30 people killed in Sumy, other strikes as well. And so you might expect today that Donald Trump would be extremely frustrated with Vladimir Putin, but he didn't appear to be. In that news conference, you saw my report there, he wasn't. And on social media, he said President Zelensky and crooked Joe Biden did an absolutely horrible job in allowing this travesty, the war, to begin. So blaming once again Zelensky for the war, which, of course, was caused by Putin, by that invasion 3 years ago. I wonder the extent to which this is all part of Donald Trump trying to use careful language so he doesn't upset any ceasefire he wants to achieve. Or is it something else? Because he said he could get a ceasefire in a day. It is nearly 100 days now, and he hasn't managed to.
Mark Stone with the latest there from Washington, D.C. Mark, thank you. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murdering a convicted killer at a high-security prison in Cambridgeshire. It comes as the Justice Secretary has ordered an independent review into Saturday's attack on 3 prison officers by the brother of the Manchester Arena bomber at Frankland Prison in County Durham. Let's get more now on this with our correspondent Molly Malone. Molly, more concerning news for a prison service that's already under pressure. 2 attacks in the space of just a few days.
Yeah, that's right. 2 very serious incidents, and what is known to be 2 of the most highly secure jails in the country. The most recent happened yesterday at HMP Whitemoor in Cambridgeshire. John Mansfield had been serving 2 life sentences, the first for murdering his neighbour back in 2007, the second back in 2014, where he stabbed another prisoner with a broken plate at a jail near York. Now, yesterday, Mansfield was found dead at HMP Whitemoor in Cambridge, a high security category A prison. A fellow serving inmate allegedly had attacked him. The police then said a 44-year-old man had been arrested on suspicion of murder. Now, as we understand it, John Mansfield was attacked in what's known as a close supervision centre. These are segregated units designed to be kept separate from the rest of the general population in that jail. There's a high staff to prisoner ratio, and they're deemed to be sort of highly secure units. But this comes after another attack on Saturday, again at a high security jail, HMP Frankland in Durham, where Hashem Abidi, one of the men responsible for the Manchester Arena bombing, allegedly threw hot cooking oil over 3 prison officers before stabbing them with what's called an improvised weapon. Now, this attack, as we understand, was also in a different type of separation unit, again used to house some of the most violent and extremist prisoners. One of those prison officers that was attacked was discharged from hospital over the weekend. 2 more are still being treated in hospital for their injuries. But what that attack sort of provoked, if you like, was a series of calls to action. One from the Prison Officers Association, who said, look, essentially their view is these prisoners in these separation units should not be granted the same privileges as, i.e. access to cooking facilities in these separation units. So as of today, as we understand it, the government have banned those types of prisoners and separation units and closed supervision centres from accessing self-using cooking equipment. We also know of a letter from a number of the victims' families of the Manchester Arena bombings writing to the Justice Secretary today talking really of their disbelief that this was able to happen in one of the most highly secure jails. We've had a statement from the government as well who said our thoughts remain with the victims of the Manchester Arena bombing and their families who are understandably concerned by the shocking attack at HMP Franklin this weekend. We'll also launch a full independent review into how this attack was able to happen, and we'll set out the terms and scope of this review in the coming days. So that's a government review on top of a police investigation, clearly concerning events in a matter of days from one another and leaving the prison service, no doubt, with some questions to answer.
Absolutely. Molly Malone, thank you so much for the update. Thank you. A former Conservative MP and senior aide to Rishi Sunak is among 15 people charged with betting on the date of the 2024 general election. The Gambling Commission opened an investigation after the former Montgomeryshire MP, Craig Williams, admitted placing a £100 bet last May that the election would be in July. Current Welsh Parliament member Russell George is also among those being prosecuted. The Tories say all party staff charged have been suspended. Former Minister Tulip Siddique says there is no evidence she's done anything wrong after Bangladesh issued a warrant for her arrest. Yesterday, it was reported that Bangladesh's Anti-Corruption Commission had sought an arrest warrant following allegations that she illegally received 7,200 square feet plot of land in the country's capital, Dhaka.
No one from the Bangladeshi authorities has contacted me. The entire time, they've done trial by media. My lawyers proactively wrote to the Bangladeshi authorities. They never responded. I'm sure you'll understand I can't dignify this politically motivated smear campaign with any contacts or any comments. It's a completely politically motivated smear campaign trying to harass me. There is no evidence that I've done anything wrong.
Newcastle United say their manager, Eddie Howe, is recovering in hospital from pneumonia and will miss 2 more games. The 47-year-old missed the team's 4-1 win against Manchester United on Sunday due to illness. The club said on Saturday that he had been admitted to hospital after feeling unwell for a number of days. Well, it was in the early hours of this morning that Northern Ireland's Rory McIlroy made sporting history to become the first European to complete golf's coveted Grand Slam after he won the Masters in Augusta. He and his fans endured a torturous final round before he sank his final putt in a sudden death playoff against Justin Rose to become champion. And now a huge party is being prepared to welcome him home to Hollywood Golf Club in County Down, where the dream began. Our Ireland correspondent Stephen Murphy reports.
The next generation teeing off in the birthplace of a golf legend.
You know, I have very vivid memories of when I was, 3 and 4 years of age at Hollywood Golf Club, and they made a special exemption for me that they let me join as a junior member before the age limit, which was maybe 10 or 11.
This was the moment everything changed for local boy Rory McIlroy. A huge burden finally lifted. Even in his greatest triumph, thoughts turned to home.
I want to say hello to my mum and dad. They're back home in Northern Ireland.
They made a lot of sacrifices for you.
They did, and I can't wait to see them next week. I just can't wait to celebrate this with them.
At Hollywood Golf Club in County Down, they lived every stroke until victory. Today, you get the impression the Grand Slam hasn't quite sunk in yet.
It's hard to put into words, to be quite honest with you. Obviously, Rory's now only the 6th player to have ever won the Grand Slam, so he's following the likes of Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. And for somebody from a small town in County Down, from a very small island of Ireland, to do what he has done is just incredible.
Come on, have another pitch.
His parents' living room in Hollywood was his earliest fairway. The qualities imbued in this small town outside of Belfast stood the Masters champion in good stead
never did waver. His understanding of where he came from, understanding of the privilege that he'd been given, understanding of the talent he'd been given. And, you know, for all that to come together finally last night was extraordinary. And I know that I speak on behalf of so many people, particularly from home, who will have been just watching him with joy and with pride.
At his old school in Hollywood, which also hands out green blazers, pupils too young to remember Rory's last major win were taking it in.
Having a golfer from here that's won the career Grand Slam, I think is just so huge. And I think even people that haven't played golf will hear about it, and I think it'll inspire them.
Even some of our friends were watching it and they'd never ever watched golf or anything before, and they were like, is it always this exciting? So yeah.
The inspiration that he gave us, he's showed how to be determined and to have the right mindset constantly, and that'll get you towards your goals. And I think that's really inspiring for all us students here in Sullivan.
Rory McIlroy biscuits were flying out of the local bakers today, but the sweetest moment is yet to come here. This was his homecoming with his first major trophy. They cannot wait for him to return with the completed set. Stephen Murphy, Sky News in Hollywood, County Down.
Sky News has learned that another 4 people caught up in a controversial HMRC tax crackdown known as the loan charge have attempted to take their own lives over the past 18 months. That's on top of the 10 suicides which have already been reported to the authorities. Our political correspondent Amanda Acas has been speaking to some of those affected.
Ray Newton paid his unexpected £16,000 tax bill from HMRC, but when the threatening letters continued, it nearly destroyed him.
My wife actually left me. I was on antidepressant drugs. I was on sleeping pills. Our whole world was sort of falling apart. And one particular evening on a very stormy night, I was going to basically kill myself.
Ray was saved after a member of the public intervened. His ordeal began in 2016, after the Chancellor, George Osborne, announced contractors who'd had their salaries paid through tax-free loans in schemes marketed as HMRC compliant were liable for years of retrospective national insurance and income tax in a lump sum known as the loan charge. But 8 years after Ray's original bill, HMRC suddenly tripled it.
This is the bombshell letter last year. A total of 57,000. I just couldn't believe it, to be honest.
HMRC have now cancelled 12,000 of that, but Ray's chaotic experience is far from unique.
It's soul-destroying.
Stephen Bishop had reached a settlement to pay HMRC by direct debit, but they cancelled it without explanation, sent bills for wildly different amounts, and even dispatched an inspector to his home.
There have been times where I have thought that potentially taking my own life would be the only way out of this.
Since 2016, the loan charge has raised £4.2 billion for HMRC, with 25,000 cases settled. But another 40,000 individuals and 5,000 employers are yet to reach an agreement.
Ordinary people who are victims of mis-selling are suffering financial ruin and personal harm.
In opposition, Labour criticised the way HMRC pursued the loan charge, promising an independent review into its approach. But the review they announced in January will focus on how to get people to pay.
What the government announced and what they promised has turned into an internal HMRC stitch-up.
Do you think this is a cover-up?
Yeah, of course it's a cover-up. It's been covered up for a long time.
Sky News have discovered another 4 people affected by the loan charge have attempted to take their own lives in the past 18 months, bringing the total to 14. That's on top of the 10 suicides already reported to the authorities. HMRC say they take the well-being of all taxpayers seriously, and they made significant improvements to their service identifying and supporting customers who need extra help. The government insists the review is independent of the Treasury and HMRC, and they can't preempt its findings. But those caught by the loan charge fear the Chancellor's in no mood to throw them a lifeline. Amanda Acas, Sky News, Westminster.
And if you've been affected by any of the topics discussed in that report, a reminder that help is available. You can call the Samaritans on their 24-hour helpline, 116 123, or you can email joe@samaritans.org. The pop star Katy Perry was literally on top of the world as she led a star-studded crew on a space mission which was completed in just 11 minutes. The fireworks singer lifted off from West Texas on a Blue Origin rocket alongside 5 other women in the first all-female space crew in over 60 years. Our science correspondent Thomas Moore reports.
It was the day glamour came to the launch pad. Designer flight suits and a clutch of celebrities, including singer Katy Perry, the first all-female crew to go to space in more than 60 years.
4, command engine start, 2, 1, ignition.
Perry sang about a firework. Now she rode on one.
New Shepard has cleared the tower.
Soaring above the West Texas desert in a rocket built by Blue Origin, a 10-minute ride that took them to the edge of space. They were watched just about by some of the biggest names in showbiz. There was Oprah and some of the Kardashians.
So it's very inspirational and just super proud of the girls, every one of them. And it's a very brave thing to do.
65 miles above the Earth, the crew unbuckled. And floated.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
4 minutes of weightlessness. And then there was the view.
Oh, the moon! You guys, I have to tell you, look at the moon. Look. Oh, that's amazing. Oh my God.
Then they were on their way back, touching down in a cloud of dust.
There it is.
Jeff Bezos, the billionaire owner of Blue Origin, welcomed back fiancée Lauren Sanchez and the other new astronauts. It will take them a while to process their experience.
Complete and utter joy and gratefulness. Like, it makes me want to come back and just hug everyone and be like, oh my God, we're in this together. I think this experience has shown me you never know how much love is inside of you, like how much love you have to give. And how loved you are until the day you launch.
This is space tourism, out of reach for all but the super rich and their friends. But Katy Perry and her crew have a story to tell and perhaps another song. They kissed the edge of space.
Aww.
And they liked it. Thomas Moore, Sky News.
And now the party starts.
And that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's papers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by columnist and broadcaster Steve Richards and the FT's Whitehall editor, Lucy Fisher. Among the stories we will be discussing, this on the front of the Mail. The headline, bin strike grinds on as Labour humiliated. We'll be right back.